All right. All right. Hey, Bev, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. How about you?
I'm doing really good. I'm doing really, really good.
You look really chilled this day.
Yeah, it's funny, we've all been staying up nights working on our upcoming launch, and as a result, I've kind of seen myself on my calls get less and less formal.
Love it. Let's talk about the launch for a minute. What's happening tomorrow?
Yeah, we're launching some new features, a new user interface and kind of design and flow of the platform. Um, it's It's really exciting. For me, at the beginning of all of this, when I first had the idea for Grantx, it was out of frustration. I had a key project that was going to help hundreds of thousands of people in underserved communities, and that project was killed just because basically I didn't have access to what we're launching tomorrow. And so, kind of seeing us really kind of create the solution that I needed years ago um, means a lot for me, and so I'm pretty excited about it.
Let's roll back time. Tell me how you decided Grantx was needed.
Yeah, sure. So my work has been pretty impact focused for the last 5 or so years, and I was doing work in the power sector focused on helping address the complex system of problems related to the impact of climate change on critical infrastructure. I did a lot of work uh, developing novel modeling methodologies for forecasting extreme weather events further in advance, so that situations like the hurricanes last year, the wildfires, and the floods in Texas, those would be things that we could actually prepare for farther in advance, and less lives would be lost. I also did a lot of work with helping kind of ensure there would be water security for underserved communities, and then this other project, and this is when we kind of really ran into that grant system that everybody here knows so well and the problems that come with it. Um, and I was just kind of stuck, shrugging my shoulders, looking at leadership, saying, why are we letting these problems kill key initiatives that are really good work that are going to help people? And the answer was, they had nothing. And I said, that's just the way it is. Um, and I went around and talked to people across different sectors, talked to a bunch of people at nonprofits. And it seemed like everyone was just kind of stuck in this place of that it's just the way it is. And I'm a very stubborn person, especially when I see things like this. And so I set out to try and see if we could solve it. And over the last 2 years, we've built an incredible team, primarily around our kind of team motto, which is we can't solve all the world's problems, but we can solve the biggest one for the people who are. Um, and now, as I said earlier, I'm very proud. I'm very proud of what we have coming out tomorrow because it's a really big step in that direction.
I'm excited. I did sign up for tomorrow just to see everything the first time and be enthusiastic, excited, grateful, appreciative to know that you saw something or a lot of something's missing in our industry. And rather than just sort of groan about it or shake your head or use five different processes in order to find one solid thing, you figured it out. And the entrepreneurial spirit is what really attracted me to saying yes to be a part of the Grantx Advisory Board. I believe that when we hit a wall or we have to go too many ways in order to come back to the path that we should have found one way the first time, that it's when whatever we have in our mind and our heart starts to come together and we create. We do things that are way beyond what we would ever expect because the more we work on something that's our dream, the better the dream gets.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're kind of the embodiment of entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, when we did a similar interview a few months ago in Arizona, and we sat down for lunch beforehand, just kind of chatted, got to know each other. You told me a couple of stories about your career and your background, and how you kind of ran into the same walls that everybody else was, and broke them down. Um, and continue to kind of go on and create the answer that people previously didn't even think could be possible. Um, honestly, if you want to share a little bit about what you kind of told me that day about your career, and and also would love to hear just how you're doing and what you're up to now.
Well, I never planned or wrote it in my diary or made any kind of promises to myself that I ever wanted to be a part of the grants industry. I didn't even know what a grant writer was back in the day. And back in the day is a long time ago. We're talking about the 70s, okay? For the younger people here, many of you probably weren't born yet, but I was, and I didn't know anything about grants. And I went to the public library thinking there'd be a whole shelf of these great books to check out and all this information, and there was nothing but a little tattered notebook with 3 pages in it with 3 foundation names. And I'm originally from Flint, Michigan. So for those of you that are familiar with the name, we're not only known for the water situation, but also we were the home of a major automotive manufacturer years ago. And I won't name their name to give them a plug or anything while we're doing this, but let's just say that our town was built on that. And we had a lot of famous people there working on what was called the one horse carriage at the time to get it started. And we were known as the Motor Vehicle City. That name has probably been given to another city right now that's much more significant than Flint, but that's where my roots are. And that means that if you don't know something, you dig, you dig, you dig, you dig. You just keep looking and asking until you find out. So I did, and the stars aligned. My family name made a difference. My maiden name was Mitchell, and it came into fruition, I guess, when I had a chance to apply to the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation on behalf of an organization that I sat on the board for as a vice president. And didn't know what I was doing, but there was a little pamphlet that I was given with all the guidelines, and I followed the instructions to the letter. I didn't have an editor. I was my own editor, which is a fool's journey to be your own editor. Definitely, I see some benefit in AI correcting grammar and punctuation before things go public or go out to a potential funder. However, I was blessed. I was able to get 100,000 a year for 3 years for the organization. And after that, I left the board, and community agencies started to call me, ask me to help them get dollars because it was a big deal to get that amount of money back at that time for one organization. And I volunteered and did my community service and did this for 3 years before I actually began to call it a sole proprietorship, a small business that I was starting up to supplement my wages that I was making working in several positions, one for the government, local government, the county in Michigan, and then also for a public school district, an intermediate school district. So getting started was difficult. We didn't have the resources then that we have now. We didn't have the options then that we didn't have now. Everybody didn't have a computer in their home. I certainly didn't. I started out on a legal pad with a pen and then had other people type it up for me for a per page charge. Those days are behind me, and I'm glad, I'm grateful. And you know what else I'm grateful for, Jacob?
What?
Have a one-stop shop like Grantx, because I used to have subscriptions to 5 different grant research databases, grant submission portals, everything. And it was hard jumping all over the place, trying to come up with the perfect list of potential funders for my clients when they retain my services for a funding search. So it was a big deal. And it often took me 30 days or more to put together a comprehensive list and to justify what was considered a sure shot, halfway, and long shot, but give it a try anyway, because we need to go after everything we can to get the client funded. I'm relieved that there's a new technology available to our industry, and our industry has a lot to give and a lot to learn. And I'm learning every single day, and I'm sharing this with everybody that I know. And it's smarter if we work smarter, not harder, but smarter. There is no easy out to creativity. There is no easy out to original writing. There is no easy out to understanding how to position the information in a way that produces the information or results, research that we need. But from everything that I've done, even with the early stages of Grantx, I'm impressed. And I looked at it from the viewpoint of an entrepreneur. Um, Not anyone else, but wow, okay, this is something I want to be a part of from the ground floor up. So that's where I'm at. But then I guess I'm going to ask you a good question. What is Grantx bringing to an industry that's been around forever and bounced around with many different types of options, and they're still looking for the quote unquote perfect tool?
Yeah, yeah, and I think, I mean, everything we do, we try and make sure that there's no wasted movement, right? There's no wasted effort. It's all hitting the most important problems that people experience on a day to day while operating within the grant industry. And we have our launch event tomorrow, and I highly recommend people join, because I want our launch event tomorrow to be more than just us showcasing these new abilities or functionalities that we've built. I want it to be a conversation. I want it to be something where we can kind of speak with the world and say, here's what we've built. What do you think? What are your questions? What do you want to see next? And that's something that I try and do with everything that we do here at Grantx. I make sure that I talk to all of our users regularly, and everyone I speak with, I say, tell me what you want, and we'll build it. We have the best people for building the technology, but only you can tell us, what will make your life easier. And based off of that feedback we received, we kept hearing people say that, they love the way that we're able to provide this automated context-based search. But they wanted to be able to go beyond just saying, what's out there for my organization. They also wanted to say, what's out there for these programs or these departments. And so we built that in. We had some people ask us about making sure that the that the location was taken or weighted more heavily in that search, the actual geography. So we built it in. And we had a bunch of people talk to us about how so much of their work as a grants professional is about gathering data. It's about finding information that's hiding all over the place about grants, about funders, about impact, and getting themselves to a place where they have the information in order to make an educated decision, right? Um, you know, Grant specialists are sophisticated professionals, and in other industries, sophisticated professionals have access to this data. And so we built that out, and we'll be showcasing it tomorrow. And I may even give a little sneak peek later on this call. But I think another thing that I'm pretty proud of is we actually, beyond really kind of staying up those nights to build new functionality, we also put the work in off of feedback we got on our subscriptions. We realized that our subscription pricing was just not affordable to the smaller, grant consulting firms or the freelancers and the solo practitioners. And so we did the work to make sure that our platform was more cost effective, so we could actually lower our pricing significantly, so that now we have subscriptions that hopefully are accessible to anyone who needs them.
I've seen the new pricing and it's more than affordable. It really gives, especially startup and small nonprofits, a way to participate without having to worry about extreme debt. So I love that. By the way, I know I posted the link to our interview today in LinkedIn, and Jacob posted links as well. But we want everybody who's attending to be a part of this conversation too. So
Mhm.
please feel free to put your questions, your comments in the chat. We want to hear from you. We want to know what it is that you want to know. So together we can answer it. And let's just talk about it. So don't forget, please, the chat's open. Put your questions in there. We are ready for some questions, and we certainly will address them before we shut this down. So don't think we're going to shut you off or anything like that. We're not. I want you to be a part of this. You're spending quality time with us. Thank you.
Yeah, I ditto. Absolutely. Per usual. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay. So the only thing that I have a little bit of concern about is how is the AI going to be kept confidential when I drop in the information? So, I've already put in Grant Writing Training Foundation, I've put in my financials, everything about it, so that I could test the system. And I started doing this from day one when you asked me to be on the advisory board. I wanted to see what it was about. So, how can you ensure that there is going to be confidentiality in anything that a subscriber drops into the system?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. This is something that's actually really special about Grantx, is we build the tools ourselves. We build the technology ourselves to make sure that we're able to do what the user needs the way the user needs it, right? So we actually built the AI that we use. We built on our own, um, and it not only allows us to kind of perform at a much higher level of accuracy and be more trustworthy. It also allows for that security and that confidentiality. Um, and so that's something that we take very seriously. And yeah, because we built it ourselves, we can assure that you don't have to worry about your data being shared. It's important that we get the context of knowing who you are, what you're doing, and what you need funding for, in order to match you effectively with grants and help you go get that funding. But we can't ask you to put that information on our platform if we don't also promise to keep it safe. So we stand by that promise.
And also, I don't have a website for the Grant Writing Training Foundation, and I took down my website that was mine, Bev Browning LLC, mainly because I am enjoying studying a book called The Nap Ministry. And I've taken myself out of the busy, busy, busy all the time, working 18 hours a day. So when a new subscriber drops their information in on their organization, what happens behind the scenes to make sure it's actually their organization that you're pulling information in on?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll answer this, but I see some people have popped some stuff into the chat, and so I promise we'll get to you guys in just a moment. Um, but yeah, so really the way that it works is, there's kind of the analogy, and then there's like a more technical explanation, right? And the analogy I like to use is typically when you're searching for something or when you're trying to get that match, you're using systems it's kind of like if someone on your LinkedIn that you've never actually met, never really spoken to, messages you and asks you for an introduction to someone you're connected with that you also really haven't met. And so you're just looking at, what is their profile and saying, yeah, sure, meet each other. I don't know, maybe. And that's how most search and matchmaking works. And what we built, it actually functions much more like if you had a friend that you knew for 10 years and you worked together, you would go hiking on trips together, and then you also had 700,000 other friends that you knew for 10 years. And you were able to say, okay, I know you very well. And based off of that, I can make this connection and say, you two need to meet. And that's kind of how our platform works. And really what it does is it takes this information on you that you provide. And we go and actually scrape the whole web to gather this information about your organization. And then we essentially, it's like a shape, right? If you draw a circle, it's a two-dimensional shape, right? And so we're able to take all of that information about who you are, what you do, what you need funding for, and we draw a circle, but instead of across 2 dimensions, we do it across 2.8 million dimensions, so that we can have a true understanding of who you are from a mathematical basis.
Mm-hmm.
And then we look out there and we basically come up with the theoretical perfect fit for you. And then we go across our database of 700,000 grants and funders across private foundations, state and local government, corporate and philanthropic giving programs, as well as federal agencies. And we say, okay, what's the closest out there to perfect? Because those are the ones that you need to know about. And those are the ones that, really you have the highest chance of winning. But I want to jump and make sure we're addressing the chat real quick, because I do want this to be that conversation. So
Absolutely.
I think first things first. There was a question asking, how you kind of fell into the grant world, and you talked about the story earlier. But I think hearing, what that like emotional experience was for you, and what was that kind of light bulb moment where you said, time to go make a difference.
Well, the emotional experience was heartbreaking because at that time, once I wrote the application to the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation and it got funded, the word got around that I could get money from the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation. And everybody wanted me to be a part of that. So I looked around and I found out that there was a small group in Genesee County, Michigan, and they met monthly, and they were a group of people who worked at various different roles, but all had something to do with grant writing. So I went to the meeting, introduced myself, and I noticed right on in the first meeting that they were sort of secretive, closed-mouthed. Other than a name and where they worked at, they weren't talking a lot, but I kept going. Finally, when I made the decision to go from volunteering and just doing it free as a community service to pay back, which was like a 3-year stint of freebies, I went and asked them their opinion if they thought it was possible to actually be a full-time contract grant writer or grant writing consultant. And I was shocked at the response. They thought that I lost my mind, that I was trying to propose something that was going to cause me to personally go bankrupt and be homeless. And they said, well, don't you think that if there was a way to actually become a consultant, a contract grant writer, that we'd already be doing it? We wouldn't still be working a 9 to 5 job. Foolish woman, keep your job. There's nothing out there that you can do in order to start a business like this. I mean, who's going to pay you? How are they going to pay you? And whenever I'm told no or pushed back, because everybody who knows me, I'm a Scorpio. Okay. On the 21st of this month, I turned 77. No is not in my vocabulary. No means go. Do it. Jump in, get burned, jump out, figure it out, and get right back in again. So I just kept pushing until I was doing it. And after I was doing it, it took some of those folks in that group years to finally locate me, reach out to me, and say, I'm so sorry that I was one of the discouragers,
Hmm.
because you're doing it and you have publications and you're becoming known and you're speaking and you're traveling and you're helping so many organizations. And we're just stuck in 9 to 5 until retirement if we make it that far. And I actually felt sorry for them.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. Beautiful. Well, and also it seems like there's a couple of questions here for me that I can answer quickly, and then there's one for you that I think would be great. One of the questions from Bevan Howard is, with the current threats to NPOs serving underserved populations,
Yeah.
Privacy, surveillance, threat of subpoenas, etc. They're asking if I can go more into how we're protecting data. Where does it live? And so I mentioned earlier, we take data privacy and security very seriously. And we're actually SOC 2 and ISO 27001 compliant, which are the same security requirements that are needed in order to work with the government. And so it's pretty much the highest level of security that you would achieve typically. And so yeah, I guess that's the answer. And then another question of how is the tool helping narrow the search for potential funders? It sounds like this person, when they first used the tool, they were matched with funders that were not ideal. And the answer of how we improved this is we've made massive improvements to our algorithm. It's really much better use of deterministic, kind of hard rules to understand relevance and to make sure that when we're making a recommendation, it's really been honed in, and that's been pretty exciting as well. And please, anybody else who has questions for either Bev or myself, please do add them to the chat. We're here to talk to you.
Absolutely. So, what obstacles did you see, Jacob, when you were putting this dream into an actual system?
Oh, that oh my gosh, that I could do probably 12 hours on that. Everything was an obstacle. I mean, I lived for 6 or 7 months on $100 a month.
Wow.
And there was a 37-day stint where I subsisted only on 2 packets of chicken flavored ramen noodles every day. And just never hesitated. There's been a lot of moments where people kind of, for a long time, for a little over a year, kind of everyone around me was saying, "What are you doing? This doesn't make any sense." But I saw something, and I had conviction. And now all of a sudden it's turned to people asking, "How did you do this?" And I think that the key is understanding that there will be obstacles. Understanding that when you try and go out and do a new thing and solve a new problem that people have turned away from, you kind of have to show people the way. You can't look around and say, "Hey, does everyone get this? Like, does this make sense?" You have to believe in what you're doing and recognize that that entire road is going to be made up of obstacles. And if you really want to do something new and solve a new problem, you have to be comfortable with that and understand that your job is to live with those obstacles and get better and better every day at getting around them and solving them. Um, but it looks like there's a question for you from Babette Allen as well. Um, the platform launched this year and has seemed to go through changes. Dr. Bev, how can you give us confidence in switching to Grantx, especially with it still being in the startup phase?
Well, Babette, and I'm glad that you joined us today. You know that all I have is my name. That's all. That's my legacy. That's how I operate. And you also know that I shoot straight. I don't mince my words or coat them with sugar. I would not be on the advisory board if Grantx weren't working around the clock, their whole team, every single day to build more sophistication, more everything into this platform. It's not like we started back on day one and didn't do anything else since then. Our team has been working diligently, and the technology that is going into this is the highest level of sophistication. So if my name is attached to it, it's not shady, it's not shaky, it's not temporary, it's not some kind of a shell game. I'm not being paid to talk favorably about Grantx. Again, let me remind you, I'm a Scorpio, and if I see something as being rotten, I'm going to say it's rotten or unfair. This is the real deal. And there's very little that we are asking our subscribers to invest in order to experience the real deal. This is not like you need a credit card loan or a budget line item in order to open the door to your subscription. It is extremely easy to be a part of our family.
And you've been so helpful in giving us guidance throughout this process of building and figuring out how to make sure that the things we're building aren't just another tool where people say, "Hey, yeah, we think this is the solution that grant consultants, grant writers, grant specialists need. There you go." We try and make sure that we try very hard to make sure that we're not looking at it from our point of view. We're trying our best to look at it from the point of view of the people who need these solutions. And you have been an incredible asset in that and really helping kind of kick our butts into shape sometimes and saying, "No, that's not that useful. What's actually useful would be this thing. I know it's hard to build, but that's your job." And that's what we go do. Um,
Folks, this is not a planned script. I've been out here a long time, 54 years this year, long before we had any groups of grant writers gathering other than unofficial people around the country where maybe two people who wrote grants got together for lunch or talked about their job. I was there before all of the opportunities and things that we have now. And I've seen what it's like to work with no technology. And those of you that know me, you know that I crave new information every single minute of the day. If something new comes out, I want to use it. I want to test it. I want to give my opinion on it unofficially to the people that I know are looking for something to help make their job easier. This is it. I am not here because I'm a paid spokesman, and I'm going to say that many times. I believe in Grantx. I believe in Jacob. And you know what? For those of you, the elephant in the room, I'm the elephant in the room. Okay. You've seen my mess at its best on LinkedIn. And I just want to assure all of you I'm blessed. I'm happy. I'm doing what I love. Grants is something I've known, just like walking and taking two steps, or two steps forward or two steps backward. Entrepreneurial adventures are something I crave and thrive. And this was an entrepreneurial adventure for me, to see something start up and to grow and improve and to take feedback and to get better and to bring in more technology. I'm really impressed. And the only way you're going to be impressed is if you subscribe and see it for yourself.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, another quick question for you, and it's from Anne Criswell, and it's what is the name of the book you're reading?
Oh, and it is the Nap Ministry. And I just got it in from the biggest online ordering system we have. I don't like to throw out too many commercial names when I'm talking, but it is fantastic. Someone told me about it. And then before I bought the book, I actually planned a time to take a nap. And when I took one and I woke up, I wasn't so negative anymore. I wasn't so tired and cranky anymore, because I'm a caregiver too. So, yes, please look it up or email me afterwards and I'll send you the link to the book. It's amazing.
Yeah, and also, if anybody ever wants to speak to me, feel free to email me, jacob@grantx.com. Pretty simple, just Jacob and then name of the company. And, open ears. We really try and make sure that we're listening. And I'll live and die by that. And I also, speaking of listening, I kind of see the other big elephant in the room. It is, there's been a lot of, confusion and misinformation spread about the win-based pricing. And I see some, Bevan Howard's asked about it in the chat. And our primary model is subscription, and we work very hard to make sure that that is, something that people can afford. And the win-based pricing we have as an option for organizations that have the operating budget to pay out of their operating budget. And I think it's just it's just making sure that we're giving organizations and the people that are going out and really driving change what they need. I've also seen, let's see, I see something about just kind of how we build. And, I've talked a lot about, the spirit of how we're building, but the actual process itself, and like the life cycle of building new technology. Like I like to refer to us as a grant tech company, because I think there's a lot of, historically there are tech companies that do stuff in the grant space, or there are grant companies that try and build tech and oftentimes it misses. And I think when I call us a grant tech company, it's because we want to make sure that we're doing the best at both, the best at being here for the market and the best at building new stuff directly for the market. And so, the way that our process looks like, and, people who saw our launch in July, who are going to be there tomorrow for our launch event, will start to see this where, we build something, we put it out to the world and we say, tell us what you think. And, I continuously will talk to users and gather their feedback about their experience with the platform. But then we also have data where we track the way that people use the platform. And, in January, actually, part of what made us really move into discovery and go deep in building actually like new type of technology, essentially, rather than just kind of plugging into some other AI tool, was we saw that 90% of our user time was spent on discovery, and realized that, this was a big pain that people felt. And so we changed the whole platform to make sure that that was what we were focusing on. And, when I meet with users and I gather this feedback, I sit down with our development team, and most of the team at Grantx is engineers. and we talk about, okay, what are we hearing? And just like, when you're just like when you're talking to a friend who, or talking to anybody, there's difference between just hearing and listening. And the way that we think about listening is taking this feedback, and some of it's obvious. Some of it says like, hey, I need the algorithm to be better. I'm getting funders that aren't a perfect fit. And some of it is less obvious, and we have to really like empathize and try and understand and go deeper and ask follow-up questions to make sure that we're addressing the root of the problem. um, One of the reasons why we actually refer to our platform as intelligent infrastructure for the grant system is because, at first we made the same assumption that everyone kind of makes when they come into this space from a software perspective. Um, and, we had plugged into ChatGPT to do writing and thought that was the answer. And then we learned that no, this is something deeper. People need access to data. People need information. They need to spend less time, digging through government databases and newsletters and blogs. And they need that information to do what grant professionals are best at, which is understanding the industry. And by providing that data, we're able to allow you to kind of leverage the tools and the information that you really should have had all along. But nobody else kind of put the time in to do this the right way. Uh, and we're gonna keep listening, and we're gonna keep putting things out, getting feedback, and adjusting so that as we continue to launch over time, we get better and better at serving your needs, and better at expanding those solutions to make sure that we can make life easier across a broad set of problems.
Jacob, I'd like to address a hot topic. I just saw a question come in, and somebody asked me if I was being compensated. So I'm fanning, okay? That's too funny. Folks, I'm going to be 77 in a few weeks. I live off of Social Security. I am not receiving cash from Grantx, okay? Um, no cash is changing hands. I'm not a paid spokesperson. And if you're wondering why I'm so gung ho, obviously because I'm an entrepreneur. When I see something that I know is going to blow everything else that we've ever known out of the water, I want to be on board. I want to be a part of it. And I didn't go and find Grantx. Grantx introduced themselves to me, and I did my due diligence. I searched everything, including a background search on Jacob, because I don't want to make a mistake of saying yes to something that goes down the rabbit hole. This is in the light. This is the real thing. I'm not pretending, and I'm not promoting for pay. If you don't know me by now, I don't lie. I don't like answering hot topic questions, but I will answer them, and it may not be what you want to hear.
And actually, in that same question, someone mentions, who's behind Grantx from an investment perspective. And I have been very stubborn and somewhat cantankerous on this. We've made sure that we bootstrapped for almost the entire existence of Grantx, primarily off of grant funding that we were awarded on our own platform, to make sure that we didn't have any sort of outside influence pushing us in the wrong directions, to make sure we're focused on the market and solutions we're building. And when we did decide to bring somebody in, and anytime I speak with investors, the number one thing I'm filtering for is, and honestly, this is the same way I think about hiring, the same way I think about advisors, and kind of why I reached out initially, Bev, was I think about, the moment where I kind of realized how big of a problem this was and set out to solve it. And I think about, is the person that I'm talking to aligned with this? Are we going to kind of expand the team around this mission? And how do we make sure that we avoid, when bringing people in, we want to make sure it kind of grows instead of dilutes that impact focus. And so that's really what we focus on is other people, regardless of if they're investors, advisors, team members, or even just people I get advice from informally. It's really focusing on, are people aligned and on board with solving this problem?
And I am not an investor in Grantx, if that's what your next question is going to be.
But hey, if you want to learn how to code, Dr. Bev, I would love to have you on the team as an engineer.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
All right.
I think we have a couple of other questions. How are we doing on time, Jacob?
Yeah, yeah, we've gone over, but I'm happy to keep going,
I'm
if
happy
you're open.
to join. Absolutely. Absolutely. So before you come at us on the pricing model, take a look at the website. Take a look at Grantx, look at everything, click on the link that says pricing and read for yourself. Don't interpret it wrong. Don't put on your blinders and don't use anything you've heard already to shift your opinion one way or the other. Just look at it honestly from an organization, especially a small nonprofit who is not even going to be concerned about anything except getting information for the most affordable price around for a subscription.
There we go. Okay, now I can go over. Sorry, I just realized that I had a meeting I'm running over, but this is important. I want to make sure we
Yes,
establish.
absolutely.
Yeah, and yeah, and I saw something really mentioned about that too, and on the pricing model. And again, this is about this whole kind of ethos of the way that we operate, making sure that we're giving people the tools they need in a way that's accessible to them, and in everything we do, and building the tools, and thinking about how we're doing pricing, and finding ways to lower our subscription, in a that would work. Um, we make sure that we reinvent the wheel if it means we can give people what they need the way they need
And the wheel has been reinvented. You've got to come to the launch tomorrow.
it. All right. Well, any kind of final questions before we jump? And I go apologize to this person in the other meeting.
And I want to thank everybody for the questions, for talking, everything else. Thank you, Shaniqua. I appreciate you confirming what I said already. And thank you for the curious questions, but find out for yourself. Don't go by hearsay, don't go by gossip. Find out for yourself. Subscribe and see what it's like. Stand up, subscribe, look at it yourself. And then if you don't think it's for you, don't continue the subscription. You have an option.
Yeah, yeah, and we make it so that people can try the platform for free, so that you have the opportunity to. We want to share this with the world. We want people to benefit from what we're building. That's why we're building it, and so try it out. And kind of on this, what I was saying about kind of the way that we operate, the way that we think, the spirit of Grantx. I see a question in the chat about kind of negative comments that we receive on LinkedIn, and concerns with other companies in the space. And honestly, we just focus on who we're helping. Truly, there's a lot of I think people can fall into traps by getting distracted by the things around them. But again, we are all entirely dedicated to solving these problems, and firmly believe, and I firmly believe, and I know the team shares this sentiment. The best way to do that is to focus on the people we're helping, and make sure that we're building the solutions. And sometimes it means you got to build from scratch, and it takes time and effort, but it's worth it. And that's really where we keep our eyes on the ball. Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's probably enough for today. What do you think, Dr. Bev?
I think it's I think we've done everything we can. We've been honest, open, transparent. These weren't canned questions. They just sort of came into my mind as obviously the grandmother of the grants industry. I'm sure there are people out there that have much more longevity than myself, but they've retired and moved on to their boats and yachts. And, I still have my dinghy and I'm here and I'm looking for new and inviting and exciting technology every day. So I can't wait to see what we're going to do.
Yeah, yeah, me too. And to everyone who's still on the call, please do come to the launch tomorrow. We'd love to speak with you then too. We'll be showing off the platform, and share on LinkedIn. We want as many people from the community there as possible. This is all about engaging with the world of grant professionals that truly can benefit from what we've built.
And the link to our launch is in the chat.
Yes.
Linda posted it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, fantastic. Thank you again for your time. And it's always a pleasure chatting with you, Beth.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the hot topics. I feel like we've been on The View today.
Yeah, yeah, right. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye bye.
Bye.